It took me 6 days to find my way back. 6 days in that cold, inverted silence. When I finally crawled out through the jagged silver shards of that basement window, I didn't go home. I couldn't. I spent the first night shivering in an alley, watching the me that wasn't me through the window of a diner across the street. I watched it live my life. And that was the real horror. The perfect replacement. The thing was better at being me than I ever was. I watched it through the window of the office where I work. It sat at my desk, back straight, typing with a terrifying rhythmic speed. It laughed at my boss's jokes, the same jokes I used to groan at. It was charming. It was focused. By the third day, it had secured the promotion I'd been chasing for 2 years. It didn't just steal my life, it upgraded it. But then I saw what it did when it thought no one was looking. The dinner guest. I followed it. Followed myself, to my girlfriend Sarah's apartment. I stood in the shadows of the hallway, my heart threatening to burst. Sarah opened the door and pulled the thing into a hug. I almost screamed then. I wanted to lunge forward and tear it away from her, but I was weak, starving, and terrified of what those too many teeth could do. I peered through the cracked Venetian blinds of her kitchen window. They were eating dinner. The thing was using a knife and fork, but its movements were wrong. It moved like a marionette being pulled by invisible strings. When Sarah turned her back to grab the wine, the thing's face simply collapsed. The human mask slid off for a second, revealing that gray, wet paper skin underneath. It picked up a raw chicken breast from the counter and swallowed it whole. No chewing, just a sickening, serpentine gulp. When she turned back around, it was smiling at her, its face perfectly human again. The collection. The worst part wasn't the eating, it was the maintenance. On the fifth night, I managed to slip back into my own apartment while the thing was out. The air smelled different, metallic, like a penny under your tongue. I headed straight for the bathroom. The black cloth I'd thrown over the mirror was lying on the floor. I opened the vanity cabinet. My toothbrush was gone. My razor was gone. In their place were small jars. I opened one. Inside was a collection of fingernails. Not mine. They were too small, painted a soft lilac, Sarah's color. In another jar, there was hair. Long blonde strands, neatly coiled like a sleeping snake, and in the bottom drawer I found the scraps. Pieces of my own identity that it didn't need anymore. My social security card was shredded. My family photos had the eyes scratched out, not by a pen, but by something sharp and jagged. The transition. That night, I waited in the bedroom closet. I had a heavy pipe I'd pulled from the basement. I watched the thing come home. It didn't turn on the lights. It walked straight to the bathroom and stood in front of the mirror I had uncovered. It began to peel. It reached behind its ears and literally unzipped the skin I'd been born with. It stepped out of the me suit like a person stepping out of wet clothes. Underneath, it was tall, spindly, and glowing with a faint bioluminescent rot. It pressed its gray forehead against the glass and began to hum. It wasn't a song, it was a frequency, a low, vibrating thrum that made my teeth ache. It was calling out. It wasn't alone. Deep in the darkness of the mirror, I saw other shapes moving, hundreds of them, pressing their faces against the glass, waiting for their turn to swap. The return. I didn't think. I just swung. I burst from the closet and shattered the mirror with the pipe. The sound was like a gunshot. The thing shrieked, a sound of tearing metal, and tried to lunge back into the breaking glass, but it was too late. The door was closing. As the glass fell in shards, the entity vanished, sucked back into the void between the silver and the sand. I was left standing in the dark, surrounded by 1,000 broken reflections of my own terrified face. I've moved now. I live in a place with no polished metal, no glass, no still water. I shave in the dark. But Sarah thinks I've changed. She says I'm colder now. She doesn't understand why I won't let her wear her lilac nail polish anymore. She doesn't know that I'm still checking. Every morning I look at the back of my own ears in the darkness, feeling for a seam, because I'm not entirely sure which one of us actually made it out of that room.